Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. I greet you live from North Carolina, the eighth largest state in the United States, and of course, Morrisville, which is in the Research Triangle Park. And we are in a lot of stuff going on. There's a tropical storm moving in this weekend in the United States, many events being canceled. But today, as I open up, just a couple of things going on in the news today. At the top is, first of all, the strikes in the United States, the UAW strikes leading to more job losses, even non-union workers. General Motors and Stellaris are laying off a lot of people, and they're demanding 40% increases in wages. President Biden still stands with unions. Former President Trump is expected to address the unions in Detroit, which is interesting. And so we'll see where this unfolds. We'll talk a little bit about unions today and the purpose of unions, collective bargaining. The second thing in the elephant in the room is India and Canada. Justin Trudeau, the President of Canada, has been asking Prime Minister Modi and the government of India to cooperate in the investigation of the assassination of Sikh Canadian national in Canada. Prime Minister Modi denies these allegations, but it has many people concerned that Canadian intelligence has confirmed these reports to be true. We will see. And speaking of Canada, President Zelensky of Ukraine is visiting Canada today, and we're going to be talking about that as well. In our own state of North Carolina, there's been a lot of controversy with sanitation workers. They're all back to work, and they're getting some bonuses promised by the city of Durham. But it's been a tough road for workers this month, we see all across. In addition, you've got the writer's strike as well, which is affecting content and those kinds of productions. We're going to go ahead and get started. Probably miss some other things, but those are the three big things going on today. I'm going to have Mark Lee pick up, and I've got a really bad cold today, so I'm going to have to go blow my nose. But
no problem. I was just going to add to what you just said. One of the things I was going to add is that I was in a room yesterday in the clubhouse, and it seems like the writer's strike may be coming to a end because apparently there was an agreement that might be coming up in October or something along those lines. So that was some good news that I heard for those that are in that writing space and all along those lines. So I definitely heard that yesterday in one of the rooms that I was in and all in that space. So that was some good news that was going on for those that are thinking about writers and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that I heard was going on and would be interested to hear other folks' thoughts about that. Since you said you're going to be talking about definitely what's going on with the unions and a number of other things. And actually, I invited a couple of union participants to come on the show, and hopefully they'll be joining us in the not too distant future, because I do have a couple of friends that are in that space and all along those lines. And since we're waiting for Steve to come back, and all of that, Steve is back and all in that way. So yeah, that was something I heard in the room and all in that kind of way. And then something else I heard that I thought you might find interesting, since it is part of your heritage and everything. But apparently, and we talked about it on the news recently, but the women's reservation bill apparently passed. So India agreed to reserve a third of their parliament seats for women, but the change is not going to take in place immediately. Apparently, it's not going to take effect until 2039. So we're talking about 16 years from now. But it is a bill that passed that is going to, over the course of time, change the makeup of that particular parliament and all along those lines. So I don't know if you had any thoughts, but it did pass, and it does look like it's going to be part of the governing rules there in India. So that was something else that I had seen that was going on. And of course, hopefully, I know he's got his show later on, so I know he'll be here at some point. But I did see a number of things were going on with the war between Ukraine and Russia. So apparently, Ukraine missiles strike hit Russia's key Navy base in Sevastopol, Crimea, Russia. And definitely that was going on. And apparently they launched an attack, Ukraine did, on the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters. And I think this was in response to Putin's tanks attacking Donetsk. And apparently they wiped out 600 troops when they did that attack. So there's a lot of these attacks back and forth and all in that space. So I did pick that up. And like I said, hopefully Sasha will join us. And it also was said that Poland is saying that it's going to stop arming Ukraine. And part of that is over that whole grain dispute and all along those lines. So now the Polish foreign minister yesterday did say he is going to continue to back Ukraine, but they must protect their farmers. So that is why they're not sending arms, at least at this particular moment, and all along those lines. But I did see those kind of stories as well.
Okay, let's start with the first issue, and I've got about 30 minutes today, but let's start with the first issue. I mean, obviously, India and Canada, I'm getting a lot of phone calls about this issue. I don't really know much about it. It is troubling. There have been criticisms of Modi being a dictator, and that he's, kind of United States is, we know the economy is getting very powerful and growing. So I don't really have much to say about it, although I think we'll just kind of see it unfold. And I don't know what your all's thoughts are. I just never kind of saw this coming.
But, I don't think a lot of people saw it, but what I'm seeing in the articles that I'm seeing is that India is calling Canada a safe haven for terrorists after suspending the visas for Canadian nationals. And apparently there are details emerging about a secret intelligence linking Indian officials to the Sikh leader killing and all in that space. So Canada is claiming that India helped assassinate the Sikh activists. And I guess a lot of people are trying to figure out who Hardeep Singh Najjar was and all in that space, other than the fact that he was a Sikh activist. And like I said, like you, I'm still learning as well. But that's what we're seeing. And I think we talked about it yesterday, that a lot of times foreign governments will go and take action against those that they feel are a threat to them for whatever reason, sometimes with the backing of the government that they are in, sometimes on a secret mission and all in that space. I mean, but there wasn't one of the complaints that we heard, and ironically, Nick, you'll get a kick out of this because I actually played it earlier today in our show that I had started sometime back, but I had stopped running it, called From the Vaults. But one of the things I did was I aired a Woodrow Wilson speech. And by the way, some of the things that he was talking about were very eerily similar to some of the things that we talk about and all along those lines. Because, matter of fact, he was even wondering about the decline of capitalism and the state of the United States. And we're talking about a candidate in the early 1900s, so almost more than 100 years ago. And some of the things that he was talking about were sounding very similar to what David Walker wrote in his book and everything. But the other thing that I had running was the debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump and everything. And a lot of these issues, including the role and the allowing of foreign countries, was part of the debate that they were having. Because, one of the accusations that Hillary had was how Donald Trump might have been a puppet of the Russian government, and Mr. Putin to be exact and everything. But definitely it's something that goes on a regular basis. So any takes, Nick?
Well, I mean, what we're looking at, Mark, is something that is not unusual, okay? But it's been brought up more and more. It's called state-supported assassination. Mm-hmm. As we well know, the United States engages in this triumphal way to eliminate radicals, as we saw Osama bin Laden. We saw some people that were killed in the Middle East that were leaders of Iran's Revolutionary Army. We even see Putin, who did it with his Bajorgan. Of course, usually what the states do, Lee Newton Rhodes is going to join us. Usually what the states do is they deny, delay, don't pay. In other words, it wasn't me, or it was a mistake. We saw it also in Turkey, the same way. So state-supported assassinations just aren't that uncommon.
I mean, there are some people that would argue that it's not just state-supported assassinations in other countries. I mean, there are those that will argue that some of our civil rights leaders were taken out by government forces, whether they want to admit to it or.
Oh yeah, we do it all the time. So this is, as Shakespeare would say.
And Biden and also between Israel, I mean, the hardline stance of Bibi Netanyahu and Israel. I think President Biden isn't happy about that. And, and I think there's a lot of concerns, but we'll come back. We're going to try to bring in a guest to talk about India, Canada, but I think there's definitely some concerns about Modi kind of being, I know I've been a real advocate of Modi in terms of the economy, along with John Chambers and others. But I think also we have to realize that there are targeting religious minorities, particularly Christians and Muslims. There's been, we are all in the media, and there's been a lot of criticism that in India, the rights of journalists and free speech have been curtailed tremendously.
Steve,
And,
we have that here with our own journalists. And also, Mark, to piggyback what you said about civil rights leaders.
But in the United States, you could pretty much write anything you want.
You could not during COVID. No, people were censored. People were shadow banned. It's a whole thing now. There's a lawsuit, Missouri versus Biden. Doctors, you're familiar with the lawsuit, Nick? You're familiar with it, are you not?
No. What's going on?
Missouri versus Biden. Jay Bidich had a
oh, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean,
Stanford.
Okay. Well, the thing is, we like to live in a illusory world that we believe, we've got freedom of speech because it's in the First Amendment. And as well,
we don't. And I just want to say Mark's comment with the civil rights leaders. It's not restricted to that. RFK now is there's conspiracies, or we call them conspiracies, in terms of JFK, who killed him. Why are those files still concealed from the public? Why are things not released? Everyone who was anyone back then is dead by now. Why can't we see everything? Why is stuff still classified? Makes no sense unless it's the government we're protecting.
Yeah, so freedom of speech has what they call limits. So, even in the United States, we probably have less limits than other countries, but we have limits, so does everybody else. Now, but when you're talking about state-supported assassination, that kind of like brings everything up a notch. But it is, in my opinion, it's just not that unusual.
Nick, speaking of not unusual, the courts also play a role in other countries as well, because apparently, if I can just
we shouldn't be doing that, Mark. We should be better than that, but we're not.
We should be better, but other parts of the world should be better as well, because apparently there is a case going on right now. Nick's going to love this, since apparently we don't get any traction in this particular country and everything. But China has a Me Too journalist. The Me Too movement was a worldwide movement, and a labor activist that are expected to appear in a secret trial. I'd be worried about any trial that's secret anywhere in the country and everything, but they are going to be standing trial for subversion, and that is a trial of two Chinese activists that have been held since 2021, begins in secret in Guangzhou. So definitely, I don't know about y'all, but any trial that's in a secret, I don't think that's going to have a favorable outcome.
Mark, what are you really being charged with in plain English?
They're being charged with subversion, which is kind of like that they are being charged of. Basically, subversion is that you are being charged with a campaign to overtake or overthrow that existing government.
Were they around in January 6th? We do the same thing here. January 6th, subversion. The people were trying to take over the government. They actually stormed the Capitol. So, the fact is, these problems that we have are all over the world. It's the same thing.
Well, anyway, first of all, I am so excited. I saw Jacoby yesterday at the Raleigh Chamber. By the way, Jacoby, quick question. Well, anyway, tell us a little bit about the Raleigh Chamber event. It was very exciting. I missed it. I came in late. You were participating in it. But if there's do you know where we can get updates of the program? I left my formal program there when I left. Who won the awards and all that?
That should all be on the Raleigh Chamber's actual Facebook and their socials. They did a whole bunch of updates with that.
Okay, I'll find it then. I couldn't find it. I looked.
What were you both there for and everything?
Yeah, I got there late. But I was there for the reception. But anyway, Jacoby, you were performing or something?
So they had what? So Mark, Jess Aberhart was the host for the Raleigh Chamber late afternoon event. And basically what they were doing were talking about the different things that the Raleigh Chamber were involved in. They were announcing the awards for an award for one of the individuals that the Raleigh Chamber gives out. They also had a new chamber president come in, and they were saying goodbye to the old chamber president. But so it was just basically an event that was talking about different things going on that are happening in Raleigh, the different chamber. They had the chamber, all the different chamber members that were there, and just basically talking about what's going on in Raleigh and all the money that's going and flowing in Raleigh.
Speaking of things going on in Raleigh, and I think the chamber might be involved in this and everything, and I don't know that my brother is going to be the biggest fan, but I want to say over the last couple of weeks and everything that they have said that, because we know, believe it or not, fall is literally around the corner. It's tomorrow it starts, and then after fall is winter, and there is a lovely event that takes place in, I think it's around right after Thanksgiving, which is the Christmas parade and all in that space. And if I remember correctly, Raleigh has said that they will still have the parade. There was a lot of back and forth in their politics, but they did say that they will not be having some of the vehicles that have been popular because of the death of Haley, I believe was the young lady that was killed last year in a freak accident and everything. So they have said that for at least this year, there will not be any of the vehicles that are very popular, whether that is the cars or the motorcycles or a number of the other ones. But I didn't know if they addressed that or if you had any thoughts about that, because I do remember that was in the news yesterday. I mean, over the week as well.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't address that at the chamber event. No. I mean, that was, again, the event itself was speaking to the Raleigh Chamber members and letting the members know all the things that are happening in Raleigh, the investments that are happening in Raleigh. Again, letting people know who are now on the board or on different boards. I was trying to bring up all the information that they had put out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I left my program there, but the program was a bit much. I just need to go somewhere and find the highlights for my next newsletter. But I'll have to call.
You can find that in
one of the programs, and it's downstairs, but I just hadn't. I don't have it on me right now.
I must have left it.
Yeah, since we're dealing with the new show and since it is the World Edition, everything, there is something that I'm sure that chamber, just like the Durham chamber, addresses and a number of other chambers address as well. And Nick and me were kind of alluding to it earlier and everything. But I was just wondering folks' thoughts about some of these high-cost buildings that are in the middle of downtown. I know that the prices that are being quoted in some of downtown Durham, downtown Raleigh, and I can only imagine what it's like in New York City and New Jersey, where usually are issues that people are concerned about when it comes to housing. So I was just wondering anybody's thoughts about this, because I mean, there are definitely some wonderful buildings that are going on in the downtowns of the world, but they are sometimes in those million, if not multiple million range and everything. So any thoughts around that, Lee? Because I know that there's some crazy prices.
I got two thoughts on that. One is, should we not let the marketplace decide the price of these things as opposed to rent controls? Because like, who deserves to live on 57th and 5th Avenue in Manhattan? It's prime real estate. Why should we? We don't, but let's say, why should we have public housing there? And one other question is, in terms of developers, Nick might have a question to this. I know they play games when it comes to tax abatements, but they'll make products. They'll build buildings like on Billionaires Row in Manhattan, but at the same time, they'll build something up in the Bronx, and they get a tax credit somehow. They can play with that and they'll apply tax credits from out of Manhattan to Manhattan. So these people on Billionaires Row pay nothing for 10 years in terms of taxes.
If I can add to that, and then I definitely want to hear from Nick. But Nick, one of the things that also goes on with some of our housing, whether it's in New York or North Carolina or California or a number of other places, is that there's some very interesting housing placement that goes on, because I know that even in Durham you can find some Section 8 housing that is literally just like literally almost a block, if not half a block, away from some of these high rent districts and everything. So just
in New York, they call it gentrification, and some people are against it, but the neighborhoods change.
Yeah, neighborhoods change. Well, see, there's the real estate market is very dynamic right now. A lot of it deals with interest rates going up, and it's basically frozen all the income buyers and only asset buyers buy. The commercial real estate is in trouble in New York. It's about 25% vacancy because after the COVID, people left and they didn't come back. Even in our local community, there's a big company called SAS. Probably two of the wealthiest people in the state of North Carolina found SAS Systems. They're renting out their office space because they don't need it. People aren't working in their homes anymore. Commercial space is taking a hit. Now you go to residential space, totally different cat. On the low end, you're getting clobbered because the rents are so high. On the upper end, people won't want to build for the upper end because the profits are pretty large. So the residential, there is enough residential space in the United States that's vacant to take care of all of our homeless people. The problem is the homeless people can't afford it. That's the realities of our wonderful capitalistic system. So we do have some problems right now in the real estate market in general. Now, when it comes to tax abatements, the Oz program, I'm sure everybody on this panel is familiar with the wonderful world of Oz, okay, otherwise known as opportunity zones. Now, if you're not familiar with Oz, it's because you're a poor working stiff. If you are familiar with Oz, it's because you're a wealthy landowner or you're a wealthy individual altogether. But it's something everybody should be familiar with. Now, what is Oz? I'll give you an example. It was started by Sean Parker, was a big advocate of it. He founded one of the founders of Napster and one of the first investors in Facebook. Name is Sean Parker. You'll see him on the Facebook thing. Well, what happens is if you get a stock like Facebook and it appreciates and you make $1 billion, Lee, okay, and you sell it, you have to pay these huge capital gains tax, 20, 30%. Oh my Lord, 200 million on $1 billion sale. God forbid. We don't want that to happen, do we? No, we don't. Because remember, the rule is rich don't pay taxes. That's for the poor. So they created an opportunity zone. And they're all around the United States. If they sell their stock for $1 billion, they can reinvest in real estate in a quote opportunity zone, hold the property for 10 years, and pay nothing in capital gains taxes. So if you're not familiar with it, it's because the media isn't explaining to you. And if you are, I have actually a whole book on opportunity zones. Some of the people on our economic show, they specialize in it, but they're so busy they don't have time to do that because it's one of the many ways wealthy people don't pay taxes. Now let's go look at the UAW strike. They're striking for higher wages. Give it to them. You know why? It's the worst form of income in the world. The minute they increase their wages, 15.3% will go out in Social Security and Medicare taxes. Yes. Then state taxes to Michigan. Yes. Then federal income taxes. Yes. They get taxed 3 times on that money. Now, if they were smart, which the UAW isn't, they would say, let's take a dividend instead. Let's take stock dividends. Why would we do that? Because you pay no Social Security and no Medicare tax. You save 15.3% right off the bat. But the UAW people, the employee mentality doesn't think in terms of dividends where you pay no taxes. And you know that, Lee. Dividends, you pay no Social Security, Medicare taxes, say 15.3%. The salary increase you want is dumb because you're paying more Social Security and Medicare taxes. So the UAW needs to get off their butts, and frankly, employees in general, and start looking at the game and why they're losing the game. They're losing the tax.
Nick, along the same lines, and I don't know. Nick, along the same lines, and I don't know if Jacoby had heard the same thing that I did, but I literally was in a room in Clubhouse early this morning, and there was several people that are writers in Hollywood, and they were saying that the negotiations are going well, and they expect a compromise of some sort to come down the pike no later than October, which is very soon and everything, and possibly even earlier than that. So I know that you've got family members in the industry and everything, Jacoby. So were you hearing anything similar? Because like I said,
well, I mean, not even to touch on the writer's strike, because that's slowly moving. There haven't been movement on there yet. They're still discussing. But even to touch on the UAW issue and the employee issue, the tough part with talking about dividends, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, can that dividend pay for my food?
Oh, that's the problem that comes into play. Come on, Jacoby, man. You need to get on the right side of the ledger.
But I mean,
yes, come on, Lee, tell them if you got a dividend check from General Motors, can you use it to pay food? You're a CPA. You got a dividend check from General Motors.
When does that dividend check come in?
What's the answer, Lee? What's the answer?
Usually it comes either quarterly or annually.
So if
Sure,
that
sure,
dividend,
sure.
if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, which
Before
paycheck to paycheck is
UAW people,
bi-weekly,
Toby's crying for make a $66.
what I'm saying is, why can't we do both?
Paycheck to paycheck. Let me tell you something, Jacoby.
Nick, you're not listening.
Dollars
I'm
an hour.
saying, why
You're
can't we
living
do
paycheck to
both?
Paycheck. You need to have your bloody head examined. You need
Nick,
to stop
why
going to
can't we do
Beyonce.
both
You
though?
need to stop going to Beyonce and buying Beyonce tickets.
Why can't we do
Okay.
both?
You know, well, that's what you should. You should have both. You should have salary plus
That's
dividend. But
so.
you better get on the other side of the ledger, UAW.
But it's not getting
And
on
the
the other side of the
people
ledger.
UAW
It's
are
actually
not
trying to make it worth, because saying, well, we should not argue for better, or they should argue for better wage. It shouldn't argue for better wages. They should just argue for dividends.
Yes,
So
that's absolutely correct.
It should argue for both, because that dividend just
Jacoby, ultimately, what is in their best interest?
ultimately, when you're negotiating, shouldn't you negotiate high instead of starting in the middle?
The
Yeah,
big
of course,
picture,
of
though,
course.
not the
But
not the
it's
details
negotiating
necessarily.
for-
The big picture.
Hey,
So I-
Jacoby, they call it a piece of the action. Okay. Now
The
look.
big picture is to have both.
Okay, have both. Do like Dion. I want both. See, Dion's smart. He likes the capital appreciation as well
So
as
again, so we're in agreement.
Yeah, we're in agreement.
And
They
then
should go
talking
both.
about, to get back to the
Absolutely.
gentrification thing that Lee had mentioned earlier, gentrification is a real thing. What people do is they swoop in, they buy those homes, sell them for 10,000. They sell them for 1,000
Oh, yeah,
percent markup.
like crazy.
And then the individuals in those areas are getting priced out of the market. So even
The
if,
real estate
so for
tax.
example, if you live in your neighborhood right now, and then a developer says, "Hey, I want to buy everything around you," and you end up not selling, but then you get priced out of your area, so therefore you end up having to sell on pennies on the dollar, and so you end up losing all this money, and they get pushed out to where you can't even live anymore. Now you're homeless because gentrification happened.
Well, I think what happens, it's not really gentrification. You have to understand your real estate market. Now, Jacoby, speaking of understanding real estate market, when you were in high school, how many real estate market classes did you take?
None.
Oh, it's only the biggest game out there, and they taught you none. And this is the reason I say just shut your high school down. Because
How
if you're
can
not
we?
teaching real
but see,
estate,
the problem
you
is
are
that
not learning anything of value. And the real problem is
so no.
they don't understand how they're getting screwed out of their real
The
estate.
problem isn't
know,
that we aren't learning
You gotta
anything of
understand
value.
the game, baby.
The problem is we can't. Again, even though the UAW
Did you
needs
take
to go
algebra?
for both on that, that's
So
different
did you
from
take
the actual
algebra?
schools. So
Algebra.
you cannot
Take
force.
algebra one.
We cannot have everything being taught in schools, because we have to
No,
have.
you're right. But did you
And
take
so-
algebra one?
Yeah, algebra one is
we
important.
should
And how
prioritize.
helpful is that? It isn't. Okay.
For
It's
my
not
particular
helpful.
field, it
It's a
is.
real estate course.
For
You
my
know?
particular field, algebra 1 is more important than a real estate course.
In your particular field, but for everybody that's listening, everybody that's here, real estate is
But
important.
not everybody can be a
Your
real
field,
estate
I
or
would say,
deal in real estate.
Jacoby, everybody's going to need a place to live. So either they're going to be
Exactly.
buying or renting. Everybody, 100%.
But again,
Right. Your high school
people
field.
that win in high school.
there-
And
there-
what
there
course
is
are you
no
going to
such
take
thing
away?
No,
as
hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Nick,
Back up.
there's
Back up.
no
Back
rules.
up.
You gotta
Everything. I
take
hear what you're
away-
saying, but one of the popular courses
What?
that people have been taking for years, because I know we've even offered some at Haytai, and there have been a number of other ones. But
They have
yes, real estate is a
courses
big
today.
game that is in town, and a number of community organizations are teaching courses in real estate, even for folks
Good
in
idea.
their later life. I can't tell you how many folks I know that have gone to try to get their real estate license, and some have been quite successful in getting their real estate license. So yes, it is a popular field, and most of these people that I know that are getting
But so is coding.
got it later in life and everything. So they did learn the games. They even learned some of the games that we're talking about, including buying a property at a cheap rate, fixing it up, and then selling it at a higher rate and everything. Nobody has addressed what I
Hold on.
said earlier and everything, not even you, Nick, which is and Jacoby knows the area I'm talking about, because one is near the ballpark, but why you would have Section 8 housing literally right next to some of these rich housing, and think that people are not going to be feeling a little bit put aside by some of those developments and everything. And half these developments are actually I think Jatopia alluded to it, and you did as well, Nick. They're nowhere near full. So we're building new buildings consistently, even though we're not putting the people in the buildings, and we have a homeless problem at this time. So I think that they could personally use some of these buildings to solve that problem as well. Because I can tell you that a number of these buildings and new apartments that keep going up are nowhere near occupancy.
So there are a lot of ways to help and use that occupancy, but even to touch on, to continue on, to jump back to both points. So Nick, you're saying that real estate is the most important. It's not.
What do you mean it is? I'm talking about a class in high school. Yes.
So we need to have, then if we're going to focus on only classes that are going to help you later in life, or the most important classes that are going to help you later in life, every kid should take coding. Every kid should take coding.
Yes.
So you got to have coding. So who's now going to be a medical doctor? Because now every kid needs to take medicine.
Yeah, true.
So now, again, you cannot have.
Don't you already need to take science?
You have to revamp your entire
science anyways. Science, English, math, social studies, coding.
Medicine is a part of science.
Entire education system.
Chemistry. You have to take chemistry before you graduate.
The chemistry is not dedicated to science. It's not dedicated to medicine.
You have to take what before you graduate? Did you say, Lee?
I'm sorry.
You have to take what before you graduate?
You said
we have to take science, included biology, chemistry.
That might be a New York. That might be a New York thing, because I don't know that is a rule. I don't know that's a rule in all 50 states. I don't not remember that being mandatory.
Is not as important as real estate. I'm sorry.
It's coding is more important than real estate.
It's not as important as real estate. Chemistry is
more important.
No,
it is more important.
Hold on a second. You told me, because I'm trying to learn about
computer right now. AI is coming down the pipe.
And I mean,
coding is one of the most important subjects.
Right here and everything.
Have a good week, guys. We'll talk on Monday, okay? Yeah. I may come back at the end. I've got a couple things to do.
No problem. Hey, Jatopia, you have school-age kids. Is science required as a school age course for your two kids?
Go ahead.
Jatopia.
Oh, hold on. I was giving Steve his new background. There you go.
Where's Morrisville? It should be in the center. It's like the center of the universe.
That's nice. Well, I'll try to come back to close out at the end. I just got a couple things I got to do. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
Jatopia, is science a required course in North Carolina?
So your Common Core classes are math, science, and English, or ELA. Those are your Common Core classes. But then you have the other ones that you can add on.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic.
What a bloody waste. Unbelievable.
It's not.
It is. Because the thing is, none of the things you describe are practical. You know, you should have stocks and investments. It should be a primary course.
Why?
Real estate should be another primary course. Okay. And in medicine in general should be a course, not chemistry. I took chemistry. What a bloody waste that was. If they had medicine in general.
So what about law? Should law be there?
You know, absolutely. Law should be, because did you ever take landlord-tenant law when you were in high school?
So now,
why not?
So here's the question. I know you didn't take.
Of course, law should be a required course.
Again, should coding be there?
What?
Should coding be there?
No, coding should be elective. Not everybody's going to face coding issues.
So now, okay, that brings me to the point then.
You will face law issues during your lifetime. I'm sorry. You're going to face medical issues.
On the flip
you're going to deal with more
side of that,
computer issues than you deal with anything.
You get out of the 18th century. I know, Jatopia, you love to live in the 18th century.
You 18th century.
You want the old little school wooden desk, and let me learn.
I'm talking about coding.
Learn science.
Coding is the future.
Let me learn English. No, all
coding is the future.
Real estate, stocks, medicine, law. Yeah.
Nothing will be more important than coding.
You know. Hey, on the flip side of that,
only if you're a geek.
On the flip side of that, because it even kind of comes back to Ukraine and Russia and everything. But I remember, of course, that was back in the ice ages of the 70s, going to school, and there was a very popular group called Future Farmers of America and everything. So should farming be included as well? Because
it represents less than 4% of our working force. Farming should not be. It's not required to live in a modern society. I'm talking about living in America and the world today. Okay,
Coding.
law, medicine.
Nope,
Okay,
coding.
very important for everybody. Real estate,
Everybody
very
uses
important. And investing, very important. All four very important courses. Get rid
everything
of
you
get rid of
search on the
math,
internet.
algebra, chemistry, all the garbage courses that
Everything
are
you
meaningless.
look up on the internet can be edited through code. If you
You
don't
get rid of
Mark, can we take a
understand
time out on
coding,
this for a second?
Look,
Some news
look,
just dropped.
Look,
I put in the
Jacoby,
chat
you can
box.
have a nerd track,
Menendez.
elective nerd track. Coding is an elective nerd track. So if you
Nope.
want to be a nerd, you want to code. That's
coding is the most important thing because we're on the
Yeah.
computer now.
The nerds. You know,
If
the
you
nerds like
don't-
coding. No problem. Put down elective track. If you want to be a nerd, coding.
If you do stocks,
101 or wherever that
if you do
guy's.
stocks, guess what's coming? AI. If you don't know the code,
Yeah, put AI in the nerd.
Google just talked about how they just changed their algorithm, and that algorithm or individuals are now saying that they're being hit by AI bots.
I have
You know
no
what that's
problem with
it? That
nerd
is
electives.
coding.
Look,
Hold a second. I agree with Jacoby that coding is important, but I'm also trying to get over what you just said, Nick. So you're trying to tell me that even though we needed to survive, we needed until they create some sort of infusion way of surviving and everything. You're saying that farming and food and health are not necessarily
No,
important.
I didn't say health. Remember, I said medicine is a required course. Your required course. Medicine, law, okay, investments. You know, and also real estate. Those are your core courses going into this century. You may want to put international politics, might be another required course because we're going to be an international society.
Well,
All right.
speaking of
Now,
being
here's what you get rid of: algebra. No, that's not required. Geometry. Nope, you don't need that either. You get rid of English. Are you kidding me? If you don't know how to speak English by the time you're in high school, you need to move to another country. Get rid of those science, basic science. No,
You got a lot of people
Hold on a
that
second.
can't type on Facebook.
Hold on a second. So
This
what about the
is
foreign languages? Since China
Stop
is
it.
a growing country
Elect
with
it.
like Mandarin being
Elect
spoken by
it.
many
Hey, look.
millions of people, Spanish is being spoken by many people. So you're saying
It
that
doesn't
we
matter.
just need
It
English
doesn't
and we don't
matter.
need the
You don't-
foreign languages of these countries? Because you just said we're global, so we don't
Come
need to
on,
understand some of these other
again,
languages.
Mark, you're sitting in this old wooden school desk. Today they have translator programs. Travis the translator. You don't need to learn foreign language.
That's what you told me. We
Take
just talking
foreign
about. That's
language,
computer
guys.
and AI.
Fire them. All the people who are listening to this,
Hey,
in
Jacoby,
your
doesn't
work
someone need
school
to code
and
the translators?
foreign language, do your
That
school
was my
system
point.
a
Somebody
favor.
has to code the
Coding.
translator.
Everything
We
you
have
said
translator
needs a
program.
coder
We have
to do something
translator
on the
program.
computer.
We have
India right
translator
now is the
program.
biggest, it's the fastest growing market. Why? Because they're dealing in the tech industry. And the
Yeah.
tech industry is what? Coding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
gotta be a
Hey,
nerd.
hey, hold on a
Okay,
second.
you can have your nerd track.
Hold on a
There's a
second.
lot of
Speaking of the
people
nerd
who
trap,
want other forms
I
of
got a
jobs.
couple of quick
wanna work on
international
automobiles,
stories that I wanted to get to as well because I
legal
want to
work,
hear y'all's. Hold on a second. We'll get off of this for a second.
Nerd
Hey,
track is a separate
you know,
track. And no, you don't need
Speaking of global and everything, Nick, because there are a couple of international things I want to get to. Because one of the things that they complain about here in the United States is the quote unquote country club attitude or the country club
What's wrong with
existence of, hold on a second, of some of our prisons. I didn't say about country
Oh,
clubs
that's
existence,
fine.
but
That's
the country club existence of our prisons. And apparently they're doing much better in Venezuela because they raided a gang run prison recently. They did it just yesterday. And when they went to the gang run prison, the prison had pools, zoo, and a
Yeah.
nightclub. So I'm going like, do we need more prisons like this in our world and everything? Because apparently they sent 11,000 troops to control the gang run prison that has all these amenities. And I know that that's one of the complaints that they have even about the United States prisons. Maybe not as much of the zoos and everything, but definitely there's the complaint about the gyms and a number of other things. So Lee, what do you think about this? So we need a nightclub in
I
every
have
prison.
two questions. One question is who's paying for it. The second question is what's the purpose of jail, incarcerating people? Is it to rehabilitate or to protect them from the public from them?
It should be to rehabilitate.
It should be
I agree with you, Jacoby, but at a minimum, it's to protect the public from whatever people there and what crimes they did.
Here's the thing: if you don't rehabilitate the person, then that's the problem with recidivism. So when a person gets out and they're an animal and they're already upset because our prison system it should not be to turn people into animals. That is what our prison system should not be. So we should be working on rehabilitation.
I usually never do this. You may want to stay away from the word animals because some people might be bothered by that term with
I
these
like
people in
my
jail. I'm just putting that out there.
When we treat our people like animals, you cannot expect a different behavior. I'm not saying that we have animals or that the people are animals, but if you treat people poorly,
I agree with you on that point.
so that's why our prisons are supposed to be rehabilitators and
Yes.
not, hey, we're going to just throw these people in
Punish you.
jail. And so
I agree. I agree, Jatovia. In other words, the thing is, we have a big, and of course, politicians will never bring this up because, again, they can't win votes. And they're never going to bring up tough issues because they can't win votes. And the media isn't going to bring up because media is all asleep. But we have a big prison problem in the United States. We incarcerate more people than Russia, China combined. I mean, when we have
Nick,
our
Nick,
solution
is it part of the problem that
Roman
we have?
prison.
Hold on a second. Is it
I
part
didn't
of the
like what you
problem
said.
that we have
Roman
allowed the prison?
didn't like what he wrote.
You
Roman
talked
prison.
about stocks and finances and everything else, but isn't part of the problem that we have
Capitalism.
allowed the prisons to become a corporate entity? Because a lot of the
They
prisons
are
that are around the world are
for-profit
actually,
prisons
including
are
those in
a
the United States,
problem.
are
Yeah,
corporate-run
I mean,
prisons.
they're sitting there talking about Hunter Biden and they're talking about all this garbage up in Washington, D.C., when the prison system should be on the list. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it on our list now because it's an abomination in the United States how the whole system even works. And it frankly,
Nick, what would you
doesn't.
change?
You know, well, it's like Jatovia. It needs to be more of a rehabilitation system. A lot of the people there are because of mental health reasons. Lee, okay. In other words,
They should be institutionalized instead.
Pardon?
They should be institutionalized instead of putting them in the prison system.
Well,
'Cause it's a mental
yeah. I
health
mean, the
reason.
thing is, we should have separate facilities for people that are suffering because of mental illness.
Nick,
That's
you're
how
going
we
to get a kick out of this, and Jatovia is as well.
40% of their
Ironically, some of those courses that I were talking about with the real estate courses, which you were such a big proponent of, those are courses that are actually taught in some of our prison systems because they're trying to figure out ways.
Yeah, about time, you know. But Mark, should you have to go to prison to learn a course you should have learned in high school and not have to have guys like Jatovia say, "Stop! You got to learn nerd stuff you'll never use"? No.
Well,
they should
coding
learn
is
real
also being
estate
taught in the
middle
prison.
school. Real
The
estate
highest-
courses should start in middle school. The biggest asset people have in the United States of America is owning their bloody house. And only 40% of the people own their house. And of the 40%, 20 or 30% own it
The
with
highest.
no mortgage. But 0% get taught on mortgages versus renting, valuation, how to buy a house.
The top 10
Nothing.
highest
There's
paying
no
jobs
education at all.
are
Instead,
all in medicine.
Cody wants to run and say, learn how to code a computer so you
The
can be an
top 10
employee
highest
just
paying
for life.
jobs are all in
Oh,
medicine.
Toby, wrong.
Number
Learn
11
how to
is a
code so you can
pilot.
be an employee for
Number 13 is
Oh.
IT. Well, actually, number 12 is IT. And then below that comes lawyer, so on and so forth. Real estate person is not on that list.
no.
Everybody cannot buy and sell homes to each other.
Or then they're going to rent a home and they have to know the difference. What's the renting versus owning? What's
Nick, I got a
your
question for you about homeownership.
What are
Do we-
homeowners association? They don't teach you jack. It's
Nick, in America, do we really own our homes?
Something great.
Do we really own our homes so the government can take it away if you don't pay your real estate taxes?
Foreclosure is quite common, but generally they don't. In other words, by way of public policy, they
You-
generally don't. But they can foreclose. Yes, of course.
Well,
Again, that's something that
Nick-
should be taught in middle school
but Nick,
and high school.
just
But
to point
Cody
out,
wants them to know how to code a bloody computer.
just
And
to
by
point
that
out,
time, that job's can be taken over by AI. So you just wasted all your
hold on, Nick. No,
finding
hold on.
following Jatovi's education.
Even in your real estate analogy, most homes are in what? In those little areas or cul-de-sacs or neighborhoods that have what? An HOA.
Yeah.
And that HOA can take your home quicker than the government can. So
Yeah.
therefore, even that real estate class that you took and that stuff that you did in high school can be overthrown by an HOA.
And
So-
HOA, but you better learn that in middle school. Okay. You don't want to learn that in prison. Okay. You want to learn HOA laws in middle school. And again, they don't teach.
But
I don't
if you can
think-
pay your bills,
Oh.
because that real estate class isn't going to get you paying your bills. If you can pay your bills, what? You want one of those top those top 15 classes, right? So you want to be a pilot, you want to be in medicine, you want to be in IT. So I'm just saying. Coding
What's your opinion of
coding
timeshares? Talking about real estate. What for time sharing? Do you have an opinion about that? Waste your money,
Timeshare,
good
the worst
investment?
thing you could ever do.
Timeshares is probably the worst investment you'll ever make. in your life,
timeshares.
you know, why do you think they go like crazy trying to sell it? The commissions are unbelievable, and generally it's a horrible investment. You know, and I've looked at it for 40 years, and after the last 40 years, it's still a horrible investment.
But they're still
now,
doing it.
So the timeshare, the people who run timeshares had to create timeshare exits because it's nearly impossible to get out of timeshares.
Yeah.
So, and then you got to transfer it to your family members who don't want the timeshare.
You know what, Lee?
Hey,
There's
Nick,
part
quick
of the real
question.
estate
Nick, hold on a second.
bullshit
Real quick question for you. Because you just recently went on the housing market. You have a brand new house. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but it seems like it's wonderful and all in that way. But my question for you is, when you went on that housing journey, I'm assuming that you looked at a couple of houses, some in person, but I'm also thinking you might have looked at some online and all along those lines. And my guess is that those pictures and some of that
Zillow's a
other
good place to
things
go.
that were done was AI created and everything, to the point that Jacoby was making. Because I have know some friends that are in the photographic business of photographic real estate, and I know that they use AI and other things to show those houses and all in that space. So yeah, that's an example right there of something that you just experienced, that you were probably using AI.
Most all the pictures I took were just off my bloody camera, and see, a lot of them are taken by professional photographers, and they posted on Redfin, Zillow, and
That's my point. Those pictures, because I know somebody in that field, those pictures a lot of times are using AI.
Everything comes back to coding.
you know. So
And if you want to start an easy way to start anything entrepreneurial wise, even today, if you jump into coding, you can create something. It's tougher to do it in real estate, and more expensive to do it in real estate than it is to do it in coding. So if you want
A lot of listings, like on Zillow, besides the pictures, they'll have walk around videos, but they'll have shell houses that were just constructed or remodeled, what have you, that are empty. And based on what Mark is saying, they'll place furniture there or different items there to make it go back.
Those are some examples.
But they're not really there.
Exactly.
That's somebody using their computer to put sample property.
But that's AI.
And get excited. It's not Jacoby's trip to Mars. I'm sorry. And frankly, you do not need
I think you want to go to Mars, Nick, and everything. Because I think he never said that.
I think Nick is on the Mars.
He said modern ways of using AI and all in that space, which I brought up the idea of the microwave, the refrigerator. I could say several other things, including that TV you love watching, that is using AI as well. But getting to another really quick issue, because it was the other international thing that I was getting to go to, because we've talked about it before, but I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts about this. But we mentioned Israel and we mentioned the Mideast, but apparently the leaders of the Palestinian part of the Mideast said that there will be no peace in the Mideast without a Palestinian state. That's what Abbas told the UN amid the Israeli-Saudi talks, and he said that there can be no Mideast peace without his people enjoying full rights. I'm thinking of even the rights to a house and all along those lines. So what are our thoughts around that?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I hear what you're saying, and I believe the quote that he said it, okay? But I would be curious, if they weren't fearful of their lives, what the Palestinian people themselves would want.
Yeah,
Good point. Are they happy with the status quo with their leaders or not? Because I hear different things on the street, and I know it's maybe anecdotal, that they're not happy with their leadership, okay? And most of them, just like most Americans, most people in this world, they just want to get along.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Perpetual war and perpetual killing and hate, they don't favor this, but they're being forced. The journalists there are being shut down.
Use that example, we can say Ireland and England, because they've been at war even longer than the Palestinians.
Well, leaders are the people.
Ireland and Northern Ireland. I mean, give me a break. Now they figured it out. The thing is, they're fighting over nothing. What they should figure out is that if they take a course in coding, this whole Middle East thing will go away, because a coding course solves everything.
Yep, because you can stop any missile from going out. All that is an electronic button you push. You can actually, you can stop it. But no, Middle East peace
Mark,
is
there's
tough.
no reasons to look at international politics when a nice little dose of a coding course can take care of all of your problems. If you're sick tomorrow, I suggest you take a coding course. If you're
Wasn't it,
broke,
during
find a place
COVID?
to live,
During
take
COVID?
a
Wasn't there
coding
telehealth? And isn't telehealth
If you're
part of
having
COVID?
legal problems, take a course in coding. You know,
Hold on a
They
second,
do
but
actually have.
to your
They
point,
do
did
actually
you tell me-
have
did you tell
legal
me-
courses
is
that
it-
you can take with an AI bot. They
oh
have
yeah,
other
yes,
courses.
yes, you
I
go-
mean, Duolingo, that's all that is if you want to learn a new language.
so we know the solution to life is take
Hey,
a
Nick,
coding course.
People
I'm
take
having a
coding and
bad
they get
day.
sick. What medicine
I'm
do they
having a
take?
headache. Time to take a
Jacoby,
course.
what kind of medicine do people in coding take when they get sick? They take codeine, right?
Yeah, codeine,
Codeine.
coding. What's the difference, says Jacoby? You got a
If
No,
a
there's a
problem.
person
big
passes
difference.
away
Hey,
in the medical industry,
no,
they say they code.
We had a
So-
guest on the show this morning.
Can
One of
coding
them
can
are
coding solve
relationships
some of
with
the
other
problems
people.
that exist
Take a course in
even
coding.
with hold on a second. Can coding solve some of the problems that exist with land rights? Because since I'm trying to get to countries that I know we have listeners at and everything, apparently Brazil's indigenous people, the people that were originally from Brazil, are celebrating a massive land rights victory. So they've been trying to get their rights to their own land, and we're talking about real estate and all in that space. And apparently the folks in Brazil are shedding tears of joy as the Supreme Court enshrines their land rights. So it looks like there's going to be a big time party in Brazil because they are actually getting some rights that they should have had a long time ago.
Yeah, and I don't understand why people in Brazil watch our show. We got a big following in Brazil. I've yet to be able to figure it out. We've always had following for years. They speak Portuguese. How do you even understand what we're talking about?
Subtitles.
They're learning English with us. That's
Oh, my
why
Lord.
they were watching us in Afghanistan. I would
Correct.
always get these messages from people in Afghanistan, and then they would show me pictures of their TV, right? And their TV would be all busted up, but they would be watching us to learn English.
Okay, so our real existence. Now you got to get this, Mark.
We're doing a public service, Nick.
No. Our only existence and the only reason Pod TV exists is so that people in foreign countries can learn to speak English. That's it. Okay.
I
So all
thought
the
we
other
did
stuff
for
we're
existence
talking
so people can learn coding.
Okay.
Real estate.
Real estate. Yeah, they learn real estate. And real estate exists in Brazil too. I mean, the thing is, it's
So,
a world.
I'm always curious anytime somebody does a law that's supposed to benefit the people. You notice I said suppose to benefit the people. I'm always curious what's loopholed in that law that's going to just ruin everything, just like the Obama bill, right? The Obama Act did nothing but screw the insurance companies and screw the people at the end, because we pay 10 times the amount for insurance with half the coverage that they used to offer. It doesn't do anything for us anymore. It's just, it was a waste of a bill. It was a waste of 6,000 pages.
If you're between the ages of 60 and 65 and you're on Obamacare, you are screwed. That should be the public announcement. Because it's
Well, I mean, apparently you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this title. Apparently, the indigenous activists there in Brazil dubbed the case. And sometimes we dub the case similarly, but they dubbed the case the trial of the century. So after Fox ruling, Justice Carmen Lucia also sided with the majority, as did two more judges. So it sounds like a variety of majority vote. It was 9-2, and Brazilian society has an impossible debt to pay to native peoples, is what she said in her ruling. So definitely, I guess that they're going to try to get some involvement in their very large agribusiness lobby, all in that space. And definitely there's a lot of deforestation going on in that area and a number of other things. So we're going to see how it all plays out, but it is supposed to be helping in a number of things, including deforestation, climate change, and a number of other things. But I hear your point, Kim. It'll be interesting to see how it really works out and whether they get what they are thinking that they might get in this supposed victory.
Yeah.
Well, how many pages was it? If it was more than 20 pages, then there's a bunch of BS in it. Nick knows that. Nick knows that they put more loopholes and junk into things that don't benefit the people. So, hi, Steve. Good morning.
I was on earlier. I had a couple of things come up, but I just wanted to close out. Donald Trump is going to be, I think, addressing the union workers today.
No, he said he was going to address them literally on the well, I don't know about this addressing, but I do know he said he was going to address them on the same day as the debate, which is this coming Wednesday. So, and say he's not going to appear at the second and final debate, but he said instead he was going to be speaking to the union workers. So I think that this is his way of trying to get on the good foot, if I can use that analogy, of the folks on the labor side and everything. So
I think if I were an organization and somebody refused to follow the rules and not show up, I would just take him off the ticket. But, you know, he can run on his own and he doesn't need anybody because the people are going to vote for him anyway.
So you just make him an independent versus being
I would force him off the ticket if he's not going to comply to the rules and be part of the party. Why should he be part of the party? That's yeah. He's too good for them. That's what he even said. He goes, I'm too good for this. I don't need it. And that's what he said. So I think he should run independent.
He's going to make everything wonderful and beautiful.
Speaking of making everything wonderful and beautiful, I was really blown away. And I wish I could go back and watch the speech. I think it was airing at like around 8:30.
The only president with a criminal record for sexually harassing a woman and found guilty. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, technically, he doesn't have a criminal record. I think that's a civil trial.
Yeah, it was a civil trial. I think. I don't think he ever got the criminal conviction, but. Are you sometimes fascinated, both, and this for everybody, by some of the things that are going on now that were still going on earlier? Because, I mean, literally, I was watching the interview, and I aired it on our network between Eleanor Roosevelt and Mike Wallace, and also Woodrow Wilson's speech. And in both of them, they were talking about the decline of America and what was going on in that space and everything. So we're talking about matter of fact, the Eleanor Roosevelt, when she literally was asked the question whether America was in decline, I thought I was listening to a conversation between Nick and David Walker and everything.
Today.
This was something that was done in 57 and all along those lines. So are we shocked that these conversations are still going on? Because literally that was an interview that Mike Wallace had with her in 1957. I think it was like 5 years before she passed away and everything. But like I said, when I heard that, I was going like, wait a minute, that sounds like Nick and David Walker.
We're stuck in a loop. We've been stuck in a loop for 200 years. We just can't get past a two-step where we supposed to be going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but instead we're going 1 step forward, 2 steps back. we
always go through bad batches, but somehow we'll end up being stronger, I think. So
that's very optimistic.
I think the technology and the visions of the country, we've been divided before during the Vietnam War. During civil rights movements, there was a lot of people against that, voting rights. We forget, the riots and the things that went on in our country. But I think what's made it harder is the division of technology and, how and the gun violence and all these things that are happening in America's cultural divide. The political parties are being driven by the extremes, but I think the media is playing into that a little bit. And of course, the game changer Donald Trump, who's really can change America, whether we love him, like him, or hate him. He's definitely going to be in the history books forever in terms of the movement that he's created. I mean, let's not forget that Donald Trump has not only been the president, he started a MAGA movement, MAGA. It's like the First Order in Star Wars, right? I mean, the Empire continued, and so this is.
Can we say he's Darth Vader?
Well, I don't know, but some people think he's a savior, right? I mean, that he's
his days are numbered. He's a human. He only has X number of years left. What's going to happen?
His legacy will continue forever. I mean, I think that's what he's always wanted.
I get that, but practically, how's that going to affect politics when he's no longer in the picture?
And who's going to take his place? Because he's truly the reason he's the face. There's nobody
100%.
here.
No, he's the face, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see because there have been some people,
Donald Trump Jr.
But there have been some movements that had the face, and once the face left, the movement died and everything. I mean, there are some people that, and Lee, you can agree or disagree, but there have been some people that would say that that's what happened with both the civil rights movement and the women's movement, and a number of others that after their leaders were taken out, or definitely in some cases just died of natural causes or whatever, that the movement died down. And there have been political movements as well. I mean, who among us knows who the leader of the Whigs were? And the Whigs was a movement that existed and everything. But after that Whig leaders passed away, then that movement is gone. I mean, we know it about it because of the history book. So will Donald Trump become a footnote in history because of the MAGA movement, or will the MAGA movement have life? Because I don't even know, and Lee, correct me, or even Kim, does anybody really remember who the leaders of the Tea Party were and everything? Because like I said, I knew that we had the Tea Party, and that was before the MAGAs, but I don't remember who the leaders of the Tea Party were.
Things come and go. I just think that Americans are. Well, I've got to. Well, as a closeout,
Yeah, we have Sasha waiting on the other.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful week. We'll continue our conversation on Monday. See you Monday morning, and then Tuesday evening on what politics.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Thank you all so much. Be safe wherever you are. Thank you. From our family to yours.
Yeah, time to wrap it up and all along those lines. So see if I can't find the right video to get us on out of here.
Take care. Have a good weekend, Mark.
Hey, do say. We're looking for the right video so we can get on out of here. I'm gonna take myself out. Ah, that's what I was looking for.